What's going on, guys? Welcome back to another Monday Night Live. It is me, the captain, Andrew Fullen. It's Adam Deacon tonight joining us here on Monday Night Live. It is Bailey's birthday, so we're kind of switching things up here. We have Alex Redwine on with us tonight, who just qualified for the Elite Series. And, I know at the St. Lawrence there, Adam, you roomed with him for a little bit, so I guess we can kind of hit on that before we get him on here, and then what's going on.
Yeah, man. Well, first, guys, happy birthday to Bailey, man. It's great to see that it's his birthday today, and he puts in a lot of time. So glad to see he's taking a little bit of time off and gonna have a good time with his fiance. Um, but yeah, dude, Alex was a blast to hang out with. Pure chance, right, of staying with him at the Open. My buddy Hugh also was there. They were rooming together, and they both were competing there down for an Elite Series berth. They were both really close, and it was just so cool to see kind of the raw emotion and everything with Alex making the elites. And I don't know, it was cool to be a part of that whole experience. For us fish heads, it's the pinnacle to try and make it there. And it was really cool to see a firsthand experience, something that I'll never ever forget in bass fishing.
Yeah, I think that's something we can dive into a little bit here as we get Alex on is the emotion side of qualifying. So I think that's kind of a cool point. But congrats, you got third place over the weekend in your little championship deal, correct? So you want to talk
Yeah,
about that
man,
real
it was
fast?
our team championship at the end of the year, which is it's kind of cool because we throw a little bit of money from every tournament towards that, so it has a good payday normally. And man, we were leading day one, and we slipped up day two. It's definitely we need more fish, and we need to adjust a little bit. Had a couple break offs, but that's how it goes. I was happy with the third place finish, man. Anything when you're in that top five, top 10 range always feels good.
Fantastic. Well, congrats on a really good season. Now you're on to the what national championship team there on Lake Eufaula in a couple weeks.
Yeah, because of that series, the team national championship on Eufaula down there, and then also in another team series, the ABAs, we made the championship on Havasu. So headed west in November, and then headed way east in December. So still a busy fall ahead of us, but it should be fun.
Yeah, congrats again. So, without further ado, what do you think? Should we get Alex on, or do you
Yeah,
want to
bring
hit
them on,
something?
man.
All right, perfect.
No,
Hey, good evening, Alex.
What's up, guys?
Yeah, welcome to the rabbit hole of serious angler.
Glad to be a
no
part
doubt
of it
playing.
here.
Yeah, and first, I want to extend. I almost said thank you, a congrats to you for making the Elite Series, but also thank you for joining us tonight. So
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
awesome,
no,
dream come
yeah.
true.
Oh, for sure. It's been the nerves has kind of settled down, and the kind of like the shock of everything that happened back in September kind of has been slowly starting to set in. But it's been cool to live it up while I can.
Absolutely.
Heck yeah, dude. I feel like that's great. I mean, you're saying it's setting in. I remember the last time I saw you in person, I guess would have been we were driving back. You had came and you stayed with Bailey on your way home, and you were like, "Dude, it still hasn't set in. Like, I don't know. Like, it just I fished a tournament. Like, you were like, I don't know what it's like. I'm like, what? You made the elite, but glad that some of it's starting to set in, dude.
Yeah, incredible.
Yeah, it's for sure been like a lot. Or back when I was with when we were up in New York, it was like I it was almost like I didn't feel deserving of the whole thing. I was like, I'm just a freaking kid, and like, how did the cards fall this way? Where like a kid, it's just some kid from Ohio somehow made his lifelong dream, and it was like it was just all in a complete shock, and emotions were just everywhere.
I could
Yeah.
only imagine. So
Yeah, dude, you're hitting a lifelong dream at a very young age, man. It's impressive. Um, gosh, I don't know. That's just crazy. It's been cool seeing like on your Facebook and Instagram and stuff, like your young bass club pictures, guys like reposting stuff, and everyone, pretty amped up. I'm sure you'll have quite a home crowd cheering you on next year.
Yeah, it's really been cool just because not too long ago, like I was a little teenage kid, like fishing a youth club with a bunch of kids my age from ages 12 to 18 years old. And it's like just been cool to almost like bring them along like with this whole journey and kind of just the amount of support that like my friends and family just back home are just rooting for me has been like pretty freaking awesome to encounter.
Absolutely.
No
So
doubt.
let's kind of take a step back from there and let's go into right in like the meat of potatoes. When did you start fishing? And kind of walk us through the timeline up to present, and maybe even like your first memorable catch in tournament, and so be it. Kind of add some tidbits in there.
Yeah, so my dad is the one that originally kind of got me started into fishing. He fished pretty much most of his life. He's like fished local and regional tournaments in Ohio, and also like some bigger tournaments around the country. But he is like the one that I don't have any brothers and sisters, so it's just been me and my parents. But he's the one that's like just got me out on the water and who has exposed me to just the outdoors. And like my like most memorable trips have been like as early as I can remember, like as early as I've been able to hold a rod and reel, have been going out with my dad to places like the Ohio River and other places that. And we also have like we have like a neighborhood like 10-acre lake in our backyard, and every day after school, every weekend, all the time. Like I'd get home from school and I'd run inside, grab a pole, and I'd go out in the backyard and catch me a bluegill or some sort of bass or anything that bit. And it was just I was just attracted to water. I just loved being around water.
Heck
Awesome.
yeah, dude. That's it. It's one of the like. I think that's one thing that it seems most fishermen have in common is kind of that background of just being super obsessed, right, from a young age of catching bluegills and catching, and then like you watch a bass chase that bluegill and you're like, whoa, that was like bigger. What was that?
Yeah, and then from there, I would go on countless trips with my dad every opportunity we could, and then from there, like when I think was like 11 or 12, I somehow got plugged into a youth fishing club here locally in Cincinnati. And then I got a kind of more of a taste of a competition side of fishing rather than just like, oh, let's just hang out and go fishing. It's like more competition side. And I've also like played sports through high school, so I was always kind of had that like like I liked some sort of competition. And so I started fishing tournaments, and I was like, oh, like doing something I really enjoy, like fishing, also with a little bit of competitive edge, like I love this. Like, and I just got freaking addicted to it. And then I joined that youth club, and I almost like I owe a lot of credit to the youth club. Like youth fishing is awesome. Like you see the anglers and like people that are older than me and have more success than I do. Like they got started in high school fishing, college fishing, and just that whole grassroots system has just been awesome for generations. And I owe a lot of credit to that, just competing against people my age, and then being able just to enhance skills and spend more time on the water, and then eventually kind of poked my head around in the bigger tournaments.
No doubt, dude. Like when you're talking about these real, you said you were 12 or 13 and kind of youth bass clubs. Is that like the stuff that was like, pond walking around pond tournaments, like card tournaments, or was it like did you guys get out on boats? I mean, what kind of what kind of youth bass club stuff? Let's hear some of that.
Yeah, there was like a youth club. We were fortunate enough where we had a good support of like boat captains.
Hmm.
Sometimes we go to like trolling motor only lakes or like small little lakes, and like it was kind of when I look back on it, it was kind of funny because there'd be like someone would volunteer a boat captain, like an adult would provide their boat, and then you'd throw two like 11 or 12-year-olds on a boat fishing. And it's like I remember like some of the like first times I get paired, me and two little kids would be together, and we look at each other and be like, do you know how to run a trolling motor? And I'd be like, no, I don't know how to run a trolling motor. And then so we just float around and try to fish, and it was just from there it just kind of grew, and you learn how to run a trolling motor at age 11 or 12.
So
Perfect.
how many like were there adults on the boat with you
Yeah, they were
when
just
you
like the
started?
boat they were just the boat captain. They wouldn't send 11 and 12-year-olds by themselves out
I
in the
just
water.
wanted to make sure. So, just a quick question for you: did any of them pull pranks on you, where they'd have it like turned all the way up to 5 or 100? So when you stepped on it, you almost fell in.
No, nothing like that would happen. One memorable time in the youth fishing was I was like 14 or something. I was fishing like the state championship in Ohio, and it was on a lake called Indian Lake, which is it's not really any lake in Ohio is really not the best, if I'm being honest. But I remember like the fishing was very poor, and then like I think I had like one fish in the box or something like that, but the day was just like kind of sucking. Like no one was really catching anything, and I ended up hooking like in Ohio like a 2.5 pound fish, which is like a big deal. I remember like fighting this fish and like I'm like as I'm fighting, I'm like, hey, boat captain. I don't remember his name. It was just some volunteer or whatever. But I was like, I think I need the net on this one. I think I need the net on this one. And then like I'm continuing to fight it, and like I don't hear like anything. I'm like, I need the net on this one. I need the net on this one. And I look over like as I'm fighting it, and he's just passed out in the driver's seat asleep, which I don't blame him because the fishing sucked. But I remember like I was fighting it, and he was just knocked out. Which, but and then like eventually the fish splashed like right next to the driver's seat, and like it got him wet where he woke up. But then by that time the fish was long gone. It got off. But
Oh no. Oh,
but
that's
it,
too
it,
funny.
it, it was awesome, like fishing. It
Did
was
he have like
awesome.
a big drool bomb like rolling off
Right.
his cheek?
Oh, I don't blame the dude for falling asleep. I mean, the fishing was very poor, and it was just. But I don't blame him for falling asleep.
Dude, that is hilarious. Man.
Any
That,
that's great. I was gonna say another like memorable thing, like I have a couple buddies that fish those youth tournaments around here growing up, and they'd always be like, we'd go to cast at the same time and double backlash, and we had no idea how to fix it. So we'd have to
Yeah,
like hand the rod to our captain, they would fix it and stuff like that. That's any like crazy stories like that.
it was. I never did it firsthand, but I remember like some of my first year in the youth club or whatever, there was a couple of tournaments where we'd all come back to like the weigh-in, and some of the boat captains, some of the other volunteer adults would be telling stories. Yeah, I got a new piercing in my ear today, and I'd be like some kid slung a crankbait or something and laughed him on the head.
Ouch.
Every once in a while, you get stories of that, but
That
and well, for sure, like thankful for those volunteers, man. Like I think about that stuff. Like I didn't start tournament fishing until high school, and it was always busy playing sports and that kind of stuff too. And started doing I think my sophomore year, maybe my junior year. I think a sophomore year of high school. But like having boat captains like that, I remember my like first tournament, right? Like I had this guy that was just, I mean, like he was like a freaking drill sergeant. Like he would be like, this was like a third time using a bait caster, and he'd be like, "What kind of cast was that?" Like, I mean, he was just,
Just ripping on you.
yeah, he was just like, "What? I told you the cast was a point, not over." Like, I mean, he was just like a coach, man. It was hilarious. But man, like now I compete with that guy. He's good friends. It was just hilarious thinking back to this time.
So that's so funny. So now, like, let's take another step back to like the youth side because we know that you're fresh into your 20s, correct, Alex? Like low 20s.
yeah,
You're telling us offline.
I turned 22 like back in August, so just a couple months ago.
Fair enough. So Rich Lindgren, who is Hellabass, wants to know if you've ever fished out of a kayak in your young fishing career.
Some of my days back in that pond that I had in my backyard, we did have some kayaks that I would get out on, but it's something that I never got into. But like it is like a fun way to fish. It's a different way to fish. But I having access to like a bass boat, I would get in a kayak and I'd like almost get like not I'd get like pissed off like just because it's just
You
a
can't
different
move.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's a different atmosphere and like it just but it's so cool to like I've never personally done it, but I think it's freaking awesome, like, just having that different perspective and, like, you have to fish a different way, and I give credit to those serious kayak fishermen because I think it's freaking awesome, like, I would love to get into it.
Yeah. So Bailey, like this is all credit to Bailey here. He is probably one of the hardest working fishermen I know, period. And he's got his little hamster wheel going that was a 360 pedal drive on his Hobie. And I'm always picking on him because he's like hamster wheeling around the lake. But that kid can really slow down and pick apart an area and really dissect it quickly. Even when we're fishing team tournaments together, it's like, we got to do this. I'm like, I didn't even think of that. Good job. Like, and then we start hammering. Like, it's an entirely different perspective. I think once he gets a boat, he's gonna be good, even better
Yeah.
than he already is. It's crazy how good he is. So, what's going next here? So now we're hopping into your tournament past the youth series. So when did you purchase like that first bass boat, first memorable tournament from your own bass boat fishing from the front without elderly captain, I guess we could say, in the bass fishing world. So
yeah, so
let's move into the next
yeah,
progression
yeah.
there.
So like I said, like my dad had like a lot to do with like how I got started in fishing, and like we were fortunate enough to have access to um like a bass boat. And I just remember as soon as I like got my like temporary license, which I think you had to be like in Ohio at least, you have to be 15 and a half to get your temporary license. I just remember like we would go fishing and he'd say, "All right, you're driving." And I'd be like, I was like, "What? Like you're trusting me driving this thing with a 20-foot boat on the
Yeah.
back, like whatever." He's like, "If you're gonna fish, you're gonna have to learn how to do this." And I was like, "Okay."
And
And so,
I think secretly he was sick of you falling asleep on the way home, so he wanted to sleep.
probably,
Yeah, man.
probably. So then like once I became 16 and got like my official license, and then like he kind of loosened the leash a lot and was like, you can go fishing now. Kind of sometimes I'd have to pull on his shoulder a little bit hard, like, "Hey, let me take the boat out." But and then some of those times when I was 16, 17 years old, I'd go to like local lakes around here just by myself. And like that's where I like feel like I spent the most time on the water. And I feel like with a lot of anglers will agree with this. Like people always ask like, "Oh, how do you get better at fishing? How do you become a better fisherman?" And the biggest thing I think, and I think a lot of people will agree on this, is just time on the water. Like the place where you learn the most is just spending time on the water, different bodies of water. And I just owe a lot of that credit to being able to spend time on the water and just understanding like fish behavior. And and from there, yeah, I turned 16 and 17. I think when I was 16, I fished my first BFL as a co-angler, that's or the MLF BFLs as a co-angler, and it was on the Ohio River, the glorious Ohio River, and it was like my first ever time doing a tournament of that size outside of high school and youth fishing, and I ended up winning it as a co-angler. Um, which sounds like a big deal, but when I tell you I only caught 5 pounds because again we're in Ohio and we were on the Ohio River, I ended up winning a VFL at yeah with 5 pounds, and then from there I was like that was the first time I've ever actually like won money from a tournament, and as a 16-year-old getting whatever the check was, I don't know what it was, but like seeing the check with money on it at 16 years old, I was like I just made money fishing, like
Light bulb.
this, yeah, this is freaking awesome. Like I was like, oh, this is easy. You just come out here and make money, but it is not that easy. And from there, that set a freaking fire under me just for like I want to do this. This is what I want to live for type thing. And then yeah, and then from there, I kind of dunked my feet in like 17, 18 years old. I kind of got my feet wet with some BFLs as a boater. I spent some time on like Lake St. Clair and stuff like that. And then and then I went to high school, or I went to college. I went to the University of Cincinnati here in Ohio for, I went there for a year and a half. They had a college fishing team, but it was kind of just in like the beginning stages of it, trying to like kick off. And we were trying to get like support from the school. And it's just a really kind of tricky thing to start a school club like that. But I did fish one like college tournament. But after a year and a half of college, I was in college for my major was like communications and public relations, and I don't know why I decided to do that major, but I kind of just dropped that and I was like, I don't know what I want to do in life. I love to fish. I've never been the biggest school person. I just don't like school. That's just not me. I was like, I don't really want to waste time and money trying to do this college thing when I know I love to be on the water and fish. So I dropped out of college and then I just started fishing. So what would this be? This would be like 2 years ago. I fished a division of Toyota Series, and then a division of the Bassmaster Opens. Yeah, 2 years ago, and this was right in like the middle of COVID, and that was like the year that all like the different tournaments got like rescheduled everywhere, and like it was kind of a whole hoopla. And I had like some success, but like it was a lot of a big like learning curve because it was just I went from youth fishing to like a little bit of college fishing to like some BFLs and then bang, like Toyota Series and Opens, and it was just eye opening about how I got my teeth banged in, if I'm being honest, 2 years ago in the Toyotas and Opens, and it was just like a lot of good experience, but a lot of like humbling experience at the same time. Um, and then, but I got a taste for it. I was like, this is what I need to do. This is what I need to focus on. Like, if I want to make this work, like 100% of your focus has to be on this. Like, your life has to revolve around bass fishing. And then so this year, I committed to fishing 2 divisions of the opens. I was going to do 3 divisions of the opens, the northerns, southerns, and centrals, but it was just kind of pinching the pocket a little bit too much money wise. So
Sure.
I fished the northerns and the southerns. The southerns, if I'm being honest, I got my teeth kicked in there in the southern division, but the northern division, something about just them smallmouth. I don't know what it is, why smallmouth like me, but whether it's like Lake St. Clair, Lake Erie, and obviously the northern division was a lot of brown fish, and for some reason brown fish just like me somehow. I don't know why, but I ended up catching a few, and I guess they were the right ones. I don't know.
It sounds like you're looking forward to the northern swing on the Elite Series schedule.
Yeah, I am. I am, but there's really like there's compared to like the past maybe couple of years, like the only I guess we have the St. Lawrence, which I'm stoked about, which is in July this year, and then the only other smallmouth, correct me, or we have smallmouth in Lake Oahe in South Dakota, but like I don't know. I wish there was a little bit more smallmouth. Like I wish we went to like St. Clair or something like that. But I'm looking forward to it. It's like the schedule's all over, and I'm really looking forward to it. But yeah, I love I love smallmouth.
So speaking of smallmouth, Ryan wants to know how to catch 7-pound smallies on the Detroit River. So we'll
Yeah,
just throw some fire right out there.
yeah, that was what he's referring to is a couple weeks ago, me and a buddy from Columbus, Jeremy, we're in like a local Iowa trail together and just a team tournament, and we fished our end of the year classic up on the Detroit River. And the buddy that I was with, Jeremy, he caught one that was just under 7 pounds, which is like an absolute. That's the 7 pound smallmouth is like compared would be equivalent to like a 11 or 12 pound largemouth in my that's what
Yeah.
I feel like it would be compared to. But yeah,
Yeah.
it was quite the we kind of the way the tournament went. It was a 2 day tournament. The first day we kind of dropped the ball a little bit. We had 18 pounds, and the second day we had 23 pounds, thanks to Jeremy's nearly 7 pound smallmouth. Well,
That's been a monster.
on a side note, talking about big smallmouth. I don't know if you guys saw, but you know Scott Dobson,
Yeah. The 8-3.
Yeah,
8 pounds 3 ounces out
dude,
of
I did
St.
see
Clair,
that.
I think. That is
That was
unreal.
insane.
In absolutely incredible. I'm actually looking forward to getting out on Erie here the next couple weeks because somebody's going to catch a 7, maybe even potentially a state record this year. The fishing has been off the wall, so
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
can't wait.
This is the time of year to do it too. People always say that like, oh, the spring is when the big fish come, or whatever. But like the fall can produce some massive fish just because of how much they gorge and feed up.
Yeah, and they also start a lot of the big females start developing their eggs in the fall as well for spawning in the spring. So they have egg weight and like bellies, and it's just incredible. I think they
Mhm.
weigh way more in the fall than they do in the spring. Personally speaking, they're just
That makes sense.
thick. Yeah, it's crazy.
Man.
So let's move into now the Northern Opens because you qualified for the Elite Series. Maybe talk about that a little bit, and then the raw emotion of qualifying. I know it was probably a little surreal, but like walk us through your feelings when you knew you qualified at the end of chatting about the Northern Opens.
Yeah, yeah. So the Northern Opens, they started out in the James River in May, and that was a tidal fishery. That was my first time ever experiencing any sort of tidal fishery. So I had no idea what I was in for. But once I got there, I kind of like hopped on the pattern early, kind of. I almost like kind of take credit for it. For like fishing the Ohio River just because it's like current based stuff and the fish just key in on current type things and set up on certain types of structure. And that kind of had a lot of credit for how I did. I ended up in 30th place at the James on a place I've never been to before. So I obviously couldn't complain about that. But another thing that I another thing that I put credit to is the whole northern division during the tournament, there was just this massive. the weather was just never was always weird. Each event for the Northern all 3 tournaments, the weather was just super weird. So at the first one, at the James, I forget if it was the first day of the tournament or the second day of the tournament, but there was the James River. It's like the oceans to the east, and then the James River kind of goes like straight west. But there was some sort of like wicked wind that came from the west that like made the tide push out. They call it like a super tide, I think, or something. But it was like the wind pushed the tide out extra far, either the first or the second day, which made that tide drop an extra like foot or foot and a
Oh,
half low. And that had nothing, whatever I found, I had no idea that a super tide ever exists, but people are like, oh yeah, it happens every once in a while. I had no idea what that was. But what I was doing like it didn't have any effect on what I was fishing. Like people would make that long run to the Chick, which is like another river on the James that is like 60 miles from takeoff. People run there. I didn't run there, but people that did run there, they experienced like a super tide, which means that like the lily pads that they were fishing, and the Chick is like known to be a very, very good area of the James River.
mhm.
But people were fishing like lily pads, and once they got there, because of that super tide, it's like their lily pads were dry land. And
Hmm.
then what I was doing had no effect on that because I was just fishing kind of some stuff that was closer to the takeoff. So I feel like that was something that was in my favor, which I feel like helped me get 30th place instead of 130th place.
Yeah.
Um, and then at Lake Oneida, which was in New York, that was in July. The fishing was already like kind of stingy because it was like 3-ish weeks after the spawn. And then I don't know if there was maybe some sort of hatch was happening. I'm not sure. It's just kind of in a funky post spawn stage. And like New York, that lake runs east and west. And like the first day of the tournament, the fishing was already kind of tough. Like a couple of days of in the tournament, I blanked, or in practice, I blanked. I didn't catch
Mm.
a single fish, so I didn't really know what I was in for. But the first day of the tournament, the wind howled from one direction, and it was like 4 and 5 footers coming straight down the lake for the whole day. And then the next day, it was 4 and 5 footers coming from the opposite direction of the lake, which kind of just like threw everybody maybe on a curveball. And the stuff that I was doing, again, just happened to not be affected by that. Like I caught some smallmouth early before the wind blew, and then I like went up a creek and went in the bay and caught some largemouth that just wasn't affected by any of that. And I ended up in 12th place in that tournament. So like again, the weather it made things somehow in my
Easier.
somehow in my favor. It somehow lined
Yeah.
up like that. And then the St. Lawrence, again, or Adam was there. Like it was rocking and rolling some of them days of the tournament, which
Yeah.
some people were making a long run into the lake, and they had to battle big waves and run the risk of either breaking something or not getting back in time. And then the St. Lawrence River also has an immense amount of current in it, and when that wind blows against the current, it just kind of makes the fish in a
Staff.
funky mood. Yeah,
Yep.
it just makes the fish, because the fish are like, what's going on here? The current should be going this way, but the wind's making it do something different. This isn't right. I'm not eating anything today. That's the way that sometimes it can be. Um, but like luckily, like I found fish that they were in the lake, but they weren't like crazy far, and they were like somewhat protected. And I feel like that had something beneficial for how I ended up in 12th in that as well. And it was just kind of this whole season. It was like the conditions were never right. Like something was always off. Something was in a little bit of a funk, but somehow it all kind of turned out to be in my favor.
It sounds like you're going to be hoping for some funky weather next year so you can
Yeah,
find some areas that will benefit you.
yeah, yeah,
Y-
yeah.
So, so I'm curious, Alex, and guys, is my mic still low? Someone had messaged me. It's still
I,
pretty low.
I think it sounds okay to me.
Does it? Okay. I don't know what's going on. But anyways, I'm on my phone because I couldn't figure out the other camera working. But anyways, you said that you had found some current related fish on the James in the first tournament, or that's the reason you found them from growing up fishing the Ohio River. What were those fish doing? I'm just curious a little bit more about how you had found those fish and this cool background coming from that kind of area. It seems like there's some grinders that come out of where you're from.
Yeah, so I was fishing just some kind of stuff that was related to. It wasn't on the main river of the James, but it was like real close to the main river. It was like pockets and little bays where and I was fishing kind of the edge of where like the mouth or the entrance of those pocket and bays were. And I don't remember exactly what the tide schedule was, but like the bite was it was fall. I think it was falling tide, which means that the water was getting sucked out each morning. It would start like as we were taking off, the tide shifted and the water started sucking out until about like 10 or 10:30 is when the tide hit like its low, and then it started coming back up. So those fish, and it was like the entrances of like pockets and bays, but there was trees that would overhang deeper water, and that
Mhm.
the way that that current kind of came around, it was just a perfect staging point for them fish because they had a little bit deeper water access. It was like 8 to 10 foot at like the tips of these trees, but it also came up to like a shallower like shelf, like 3 4 feet, which like when the tide was full, those fish could hang around that higher level, like a little bit shallower water, a little bit more cover, and they were able to feed in the higher in the when the tide was high. Then when the tide dropped back down, they could hang out on the ends of these trees, and and eat or do whatever they want to do, eat or feast or whatever. So that's what I targeted. Um,
Yeah.
and I feel, and just like being raised on the Ohio River, like I deal with current all the time, and it's just understanding how fish set up to that, like what type of current looks good or appealing, and what you think a fish would be there, and if there's bait there, etc., and stuff like that.
Heck yeah, dude. Well, it's cool too. I mean, you're going to be obviously going to a lot of places that aren't necessarily like home, but if you think about it, think about the amount of tournaments where someone in the Elite Series finishes in the top 10 running up a river. Like, like all else fails, run up the river.
Yeah,
You
yeah,
find something.
yeah,
That's another thing you can say too is fish that relate to current tend to bite more than fish in stagnant water, in my opinion, because they're
Mhm.
there for a reason. They're on a current break to feed. As where
yeah,
dock fish or like grassline fish can be very timing based. I feel like if you find the right current seams, you can always catch one, personally speaking.
yeah.
Dude, you're dead on.
Yeah,
And
living on a river with a ton of current. So I
it's also like really easy to cover water because like once you kind of put the puzzle together of like, oh, this is what makes this current good, or this is what these are the components that make that current break good, or um, that sort of structure, whatever good. Then you're like, okay, all I got to do is look for more of this, and like
mhm,
you can. It's just a lot easier to kind of put the puzzle together and hone in on like what is actually going down.
awesome.
Heck yeah.
That's good. So I guess now we can get into the raw motion point of qualifying for the Elite Series.
Let's
So
hear it, dude.
when you found out that you qualified or you knew you qualified, what was the emotion going through your head, and then your drive home, and then the days afterwards? Like, kind of walk us through that emotional timeline.
Yeah, yeah. I'll go back to the St. Lawrence and just kind of like break it down, I guess. So going into the St. Lawrence, like in practice, um, I found like some fish relating to like some boulders and rocks and stuff on the main lake or on Lake Ontario, and I found those like one of my first couple days in practice. I think had went up there like 6 days early in practice. I found those within my first couple days of practice, and which was promising. I was like, "Oh, okay, like these are big rocks, and like these fish are like relating to these big rocks and boulders. Those fish aren't going to leave because like smallmouth. The scary thing about smallmouth is how much they move and how much they roam or whatever. But I was like, these things are on rocks. Like, why should they? They shouldn't really move. You'd think. Like these were quality fish. Um, and then the wind blew like 2 or 3 days of practice, and it was just awful. Just having to deal with wind up there. Was awful. And then like the last day of practice, yeah, it was the last day of practice. The wind stopped, and I was like, okay, I'm gonna go out back out to those rocks and like see if anything changed or look for more and stuff like that. And I go up to those rocks the last day of practice. We're only allowed to fish until noon the last day of practice, and I was like, I checking these rocks, and I was like, where did these fish go? Like there was not a soul to be seen on these rocks, and I was like, that
Smallmouth.
yeah, but, like, you would imagine if these are, like, big rocks and, like, giant rock or, like, rock piles and structure that, like, those fish it's not like Lake St. Clair where those fish can go anywhere they want just because the whole lake's, like, sand and grass. Like, these like, they're rocks, like, this is the Smallmouth home, but Disneyland or whatever Taku calls it, Smallmouth Disneyland. Um, but and then I go back and I'm like, there's no one's home on these rocks, and I was like, uh-oh. And the St. Lawrence River, I caught some fish in there, but that I know I like current, but that St. Lawrence River was not my forte whatsoever. Um, so come the tournament time, and that a mixture of like the last day of practice, like my plan, I was like, oh no, my plan's kind of going to shreds. On top of that, and then also kind of feeling the pressure because going into that event, I was in fourth place in points. I was like, oh man, like I can't choke now. I made it this far. Um, and so all that was kind of going together, and I just had the mentality of whatever happens, happens. Like if it's meant to be, it's meant to be. Like if I sucked this tournament, I was meant to suck this tournament. Like I was kind of at peace or whatever. I wasn't super like wound up and nervous. So I went out there the first day to those rocks where 5 days before there was a whole
Megawatt.
yeah, pretty much. And I went out there, and the fish got a lot smaller. I don't know if the wind blew, how the wind did something to those fish on the rocks. Um, and I went out there, and like it started out pretty slow, and I caught like one 4.5, and I just had to really adapt to that day. I really had to. They weren't holding on the rocks; they were just kind of lingering around because I think due to that wind that kind of messed things up, and they were just kind of lingering around and a lot more trickier to bite. I was doing the whole Garmin live scope stuff. Um, they're just a lot more trickier to bite. But the first day, I had like 22 and a half. And after looking at past tournament results from that body of water that were around there recently, I knew that like 22 was like, it was going to survive me the day. And I was out on the lake, and the wind started to pick up like pretty nasty. So I went in. I know this probably sounds stupid or whatever, but I went in an hour and a half early with 22 and a half pounds, which I knew people were going to have way more than 22 and a half pounds. But I was like, I know I survived the day. The wind's picking up. I just got to be like smart about this. All my fish were alive. So I was like, my fish are alive. The wind's starting to pick up. I know I had enough to survive the day. I'm just going to go in and weigh in an hour and a half early, which is kind of maybe stupid. I don't know. I
It
did it
didn't hurt
anyways.
you. So
Yeah,
obviously
I
it
did it.
didn't hurt. So I think it
Yeah,
might be like a smart move personally.
yeah, and I did it anyways. And then the next day I went back out there, and I ended up not having a co-angler that day. It was just that's just sometimes like the luck of the draw, just because there's not an even amount of co-anglers and boaters in the open. So I didn't have a co-angler the second day. Um, so I went out there. It was still like a slow start. Like I caught like a 4 pounder here. An hour later, I'd catch another like 4.5, 5 or whatever. And I slowly started like build that up. And then I had like maybe like 45 minutes left, 45 to an hour minutes left to fish. And I was sitting on like 18 or 19, something like that, which is like a all right bag. But like I knew I still had like a 2 pounder in the box. And I was like, I know I have to catch one more. Like I know I need another fish to like do what like accomplish this.
Solidify.
Um,
Yeah.
but like so that was, and I don't know if I think, and like I was by myself, so I didn't have to like deal with like a co-angler catching fish. Not saying that co-anglers are bad, but it was just like that was something that was kind of out of my mind. I didn't have to deal with. But I was like, I know what I have to do. Like I didn't the whole entire day. I didn't have a lick of water or a bite to eat or nothing. Like my head was just buried in that Garmin, and I was focusing on just catching whatever fish was around. I knew I needed one more, and I just kept my head down, and I ended up catching. Well, it was like a just under 5 or whatever that bumped me from 19 to like 21, 21 or whatever, and I got that fish. It took me forever. Oh, another thing is trying to lip like 4 and 5 pound smallmouth in like 5 foot waves is just not.
Not an
It's
easy task.
not fun at all, and the amount of energy and like the power that those smallmouth have up there is unreal. So I hook a fish, and I was like, I know, like this is it. I have to get this in the boat. This is the fish that's gonna do it. So it takes me. I was babying the. I was babying this fish so hard, and the drag was so loose because I was like, I don't want to mess anything up. Um, and I ended up getting that fish in. I got in the boat. I put it in the live well, and then for the next 10 minutes, I completely bawled my eyes out, the most ugliest cry that you could ever imagine. Like, luckily, I didn't have a co-angler
Ugly
on the
tears.
boat. Luckily, I didn't have a co-angler on the boat because he would have been like, "Who is this maniac?" Because I was,
I would have handed you a Kleenex, like, here you
yeah,
go,
I was
buddy.
just like, I was out in the middle of Lake Ontario, and I was just like, just bawling my eyes out.
bobbing and five
Yeah,
footers, just
Yeah,
yeah,
dripping
exactly.
tears.
yeah,
Love it.
because I knew that that fish like solidified what I did or whatever. So I cried for 10 minutes, called that fish out, fizzed it, did the whole shebang, and then I was like, okay, I got like I still gave myself plenty of time, but I was like, I still have plenty of time to fish. So I was like, oh, so I turn on some, I like play some music. I just play music. I was like, oh, I want something peaceful. I turn on some music, like in my earbuds or whatever, and then like I start fishing, and then like 5 casts later, I catch another one that was just under 5 that bumped me from um, 21 to like 23. And then I got that fish in the boat, and I was like, okay, we're done. I put in the live well. I cried some more, and then I just went in, and then I just went in, and I still had like 50 minutes. I went in like 50 minutes early, but like the whole way back, it was like probably like a 20-mile run from where I was at back to the takeoff. And like every like 3 minutes, or not every like 3 miles, I'm stopping, like checking on my fish, putting more water, putting more ice in
Yep.
there because they were all alive. And then I cried some more, and I'd run, and then I'd stop, and then cry some more, and then I
Oh man.
came back early, and then I didn't like I don't know, I fished by myself all day. I didn't have any sort of like person interaction, so like I don't know, I just went up and weighed my fish, and I knew, I was like, I think I did it. And then I went back to the hotel room, and I was just sitting there. I didn't really know what to do, but I was just like, I think I did it. Like, what the heck do I do now? Um, and that was that. And then the drive home, and then after that event, the drive home was just a lot more tears, and a lot more of it setting in, and like a lot more of me asking myself, like, why me? Why some barely 22-year-old from Ohio that started out not knowing how to run, like, just a handful of years ago, not knowing anything about how to run a trolling motor, like how to do whatever. Like,
Yeah.
why me? Like, there's tons of those opens. There's tons of like renowned, like amazing fishermen that like put so much effort in their time, and like have spent like a good portion of their life like grinding in the opens, and I've put forth like a lot more work than I have. And it's just like, why did this dude somehow catch a couple fish? Like, I don't, just
When it's your
amazes me.
time, it's your time. And I guess you can also say it was like an incredible like progression of ladder climbing you did there as well. Like
Gee.
6 years ago or 5 years ago, you're fishing youth tournaments, which is just insane to think about. So kudos to you, man. Congrats.
Yeah.
Dude, yeah, don't discount any of that, man. I mean, like, it's like those guys have put in a lot of time and all this work, but like, don't discredit you've been putting in all this time and work. I mean, it's not like you were sitting out there like, oh, like I'm gonna show up 2 days before, jump on the lake. Like you grinded all year, man. So congrats, man.
Yeah.
I'm so excited to watch you next year.
Yeah. I appreciate that. And I don't really know what I'm in for next year, because like this is a lot of those guys, like a lot of those guys in the elites, like they've been doing this for, like, they've been to all these lakes before. They know what like what's like just what this level is like. And I'm kind of like, I obviously know how to fish, or like I guess I know how to fish.
Maybe.
Yeah, but
Just
it's
slightly.
like these guys have been doing it for as long as I've been alive. They've been fishing professionally, and I'm just gonna jump in here and try to hold my ground. I don't know, try to catch a couple fish, I guess.
Tyler Reed says, you make the Redwine's Hat Boys proud. We love you, man.
Yeah, that's or Tyler Reed. He was part of the youth club. There's a group of like, I don't know, like a dozen of us that we all keep in communication, and they're all like around my age or a little bit younger, but they're like the guys that were part of that youth club that I grew up fishing with, and they're like my freaking awesome cheerleaders, and like they're people like I look up to a lot of them too. Like yeah, they've kind of been with me through this whole journey, and able to, I guess, live it out through me, I guess.
Support
Dude,
is
that's awesome.
everything.
Oh, absolutely. And like
Sorry, Deacon.
that whole week that I was in New York, it was just super grateful of like everybody that has reached out, and it's like it was just, I felt super loving and super like cared for, that people like some weirdo like me, people are like, "Good luck, Alex," and I'd be like, "Oh, thanks." So like that's, I don't know. It was just super cool to feel that.
Dude, I'm still wondering, are you gonna be day one on the St. John's? I better see you out there in some joggers, dude. If you're
Oh
not wearing tires.
so that's story. What Adam's referring to is when we were up in New York. We were about to go to like the meeting or go out to dinner or something like that, and I like don't wear like I've never owned a. I just my wardrobe is very like basic. Like I don't own like a lot of fancy clothes. And I was like, "Yo, Adam, like I just got like my mom just got me these joggers, like these or I don't know. My mom got them. I got these like new pants. I got these new pants. And I was like, Adam, you think I should wear these new pants or something? And it just became like it became an inside joke the whole week for some like weird reason because like I just wear sweatpants and shorts and like the khakis or whatever. But it just became an inside joke. That like,
It,
oh,
It's too funny.
it's just like you were so pumped about the joggers that then I like hyped you up every time I saw you like put on. You're like, dude, you're wearing
Yeah.
joggers again. Those look sick. Yes, like, I just can't wait. Like, I better see him sometime in the coverage next year of the Elites. I better see you out there in some joggers, dude. I'll love it.
Oh, that's awesome. So funny. So before we jump into the Elite Series next year, Ryan does have another question for you. You know if LifeScope plays on any local Ohio lakes, or is it just the big water?
it really has it has an effect on both. Obviously, smallmouth up north it plays a massive factor. Even down south, when I was on Lake Norman for one of the southern opens, a lot of them I was looking for spotted bass, and I could see like balls bait and spotted bass chasing them. But also like in Ohio, like I haven't caught nearly as many fish in Ohio off of the Garmin Live Scope, but the Garmin just does a good job. I'm not like sponsored by Garmin or I don't like I just have Garmin. Like I but it just gives you a better feel for what you're looking at. Like yeah, I've caught a handful of fish on it in Ohio, but like it just you can see like, oh, if I'm fishing a point, I can see, oh, there's some stumps there. Or like, oh, there's some bait on this point. Oh, that point comes steeper, like just stuff that you would miss if you were to graph or idle over stuff, but it just gives you a better feel of what's below the surface is the biggest benefit that I see with a Garmin. It just gives you an idea of what exactly you're fishing. And sometimes you do see fish on there, but Ohio is not very good for like I keep bashing Ohio, but Ohio's not very good for fishing. But so I wouldn't say that I catch a lot of fish off the Garmin, but I know what I'm fishing because of the Garmin.
It's a good point. It's just another tool.
Yeah, that's all it is. And yeah. And all those tools are great. Yeah, like I said, I run Lowrance and Garmin. I'm not sponsored by either of them or anything. Like I there's benefits to all of them. Like Hummingbird 360, like that's an awesome tool. Like every sort of instrument that you can have on the boat is just another tool and some sort of advantage that you can use to catch a fish.
Awesome. So, all right. So let's jump forward here into the 2022 Elite Series. So, I guess what event are you looking forward to the most? We'll start there.
Probably the St. Lawrence, just because that's like one of the only, besides Hawaii and maybe the lacrosse, that's the only like real smallmouth factory. But I've heard that Hawaii has a lot of smallmouth. Probably that one. It's at a different time of year where I'd imagine like there's still going to be lots of fish on beds and just an absolute smash fest. What else? I'm looking forward to Santa T. I feel like that's just I've never been there. I haven't been to a lot of the lakes on the schedule. Um, but Santa T is probably going to be a smash fest too. Like all the events line up in really good times of year. But what maybe there's two events that I'd say I'm really like nervous for. Not nervous or
Mm.
just kind of anxious about. Is one is the St. John's. I've never been to St. John's, but I spent a lot of time in Florida. Like every winter for the past like 7 or 8 years, I go to Florida and fish like Okeechobee, Kissimmee Chain, and some other lakes down there. So like I like Florida fishing or like I'm familiar with Florida fishing, but I've never been quote unquote like on them in Florida. Like I've caught fish or whatever, but I've never been like on them. It's something that's always kind of kind of had my tail a little bit. So I'm like kind of anxious for that for the St. John's because I like Florida's cool, but I still need to like understand Florida.
When you
Yeah, and
say
you,
on them, are you saying on the bigger fish, or are you saying just consistency and like that you would want in a tournament situation, or what do you mean by that?
Just like I can, like I've like caught, like okay, I've spent probably the last 7 or 8 winters in Florida, and
Mhm.
each trip it was between like 2 weeks and a month. I was down there for that period of time, and I've never caught a fish over 6 pounds in Florida, which I feel why am I not? I don't know. You feel like you're bound to catch a
Dude,
giant fish in Florida. That and
what
I've caught fish, but I've like tournament size, like tournament quality fish, or like have understood a fishery or lake like the Kissimmee chain or the Harris chain or Okeechobee. Like I've never understood it enough where I'm like, oh, I can compete in a tournament here.
Sure. Okay. And what time of year are you normally there in the winter?
It's all normally like just in the dead of winter around the holidays, normally first of the year. And that and down there, like weather just has such a big impact on the fishing. Like the fishing can be absolutely on fire leading up to an event or something like that. And you get like 2 or 3 days or a week of just a cold front or just some wind blowing, and it's like everything gets thrown out the door. It's gone. Oh, that's just
Sure.
that. And maybe people figure that out, but as from my experience in Florida, I have not figured out what goes on when that
In
happens.
the weather. Yeah. Well, dude, I'm just curious asking the time of the year because so I've got a friend that's same way. Like his grandparents or something live in Florida, and so he goes down every December. Always in December though, rather than like February, kind of when it's on tournament schedules. And he literally has said the same thing. He's like, dude, I like it's fun and I catch fish, but like I have not. I think his is literally the same thing. He's like, my biggest one's a 5.5, like, and I'm on places that have them, and it's just it's
Mhm.
so frustrating. So maybe it's a time of year thing too. Maybe you'll be pleasantly surprised in February, and hopefully it's
Yeah, yeah,
they're starting
hopefully.
to roll up and spawn and stuff.
Yeah, for sure. And like a couple good weeks of weather, like it could be a phenomenal event. Like
Yeah.
if you, not saying that people won't catch them in Florida, people always crack them in Florida. But if you get a couple good weeks of weather, maybe I can catch a fish. I don't know.
You'll catch him. Don't worry.
Yeah, I'm with Andy on this one.
So then, shoot, my
Wait,
mind just went blank.
Oh, the other event that I was nervous
yeah,
for
what's the
was
other one?
it's Pickwick. Pickwick.
Oh, okay.
Just because I don't know something. The whole TVA offshore June schools of quote unquote like mega schools of fish just kind of something I haven't done either. I haven't really dipped my toes in too much.
So AC Bassin here says he's super proud of you and you're one heck of a fisherman. He learned quite a bit from you as you guys roomed together in the 2018 Costas.
Yeah, he's another guy. He lives in Ohio as well, but we grew up fishing the youth club together. Then um, around that same time, my early development, he fished the FLW coasters as a boater, and I roomed with him as a co-angler. And that was like kind of like the year before I kind of made the step up to fish as a boater. But yeah,
Awesome.
That's awesome, dude.
yeah, the whole Pickwick thing, TVA, current schools, ledges. That's something I got to learn, I guess, or ignore ledge fishing
Mhm.
and just do what I feel most comfortable doing, and maybe try to survive.
I was going to say
Yeah.
that would be my point. Sometimes I think as fishermen, we overthink things and we just need to fish our strengths instead of
Hmm.
chasing a bite.
Yeah,
And then you can kind of adapt and learn as you go. But I mean, if you have confidence in something you're doing, the chances of you catching 5 good ones is greater than chasing something you have no confidence
yeah,
in doing. So,
yeah. And with us only getting like 2.5 or something days of practice for an elites, why would I try to learn how to ledge fish if I've never ledge fished before in that 2.5
Right.
days? Like I should
yeah.
might as well just spend my time doing something else more wisely, whether that's on the bank or shallower water. And I don't know.
Dude,
And you're
right
from
on,
the
man.
Ohio River. Grinders are going to grind. So,
Right, right.
There we go. Dude, I know. I think it's such a good point. Like there are so many times where you go somewhere new and you're like, oh, well, this is how the guys do it. This is how it's done. And dude, like I think when someone wins a tournament, sometimes it's doing something that is completely different, or someone that top 10. It's just something that they're used to doing, and it's not even close to ordinary. And that surprises me in every tournament series. Like, okay, yes, maybe 7 of the 10 were out on ledges. But you know what? There was 3 guys in the top 10 that said, "Screw that! I don't want to do that. I'm going to go fish in 1.5 foot of water and catch what I can." And guess what? They had a pretty dang good tournament doing it.
Mm-hmm. For sure. Hopefully, I can do that in a couple tournaments. I don't know.
Heck yeah, dude. Man, you've got a stacked schedule next year. Obviously, everything with the elites. Non-schedule wise, what are you most looking forward to and least looking forward to from all the stuff that goes into traveling and fishing tournaments?
I got a little taste of that with the opens, traveling around a lot. But a lot of these, I think, out of the 9 events, there's like 2 series of events that are like back to back. Like when we go to Florida for the first 2, they're like back to back, and then when we go from Hawaii to La Crosse, they're like back to back. But a lot of the tournaments are like almost like spread out. There's like 3 weeks to a month like in between each tournament. So it's like I'm gonna drive 10 hours this way, fish a tournament, drive 10 hours back, and then I guess just either fish or just sit around for the next 3 weeks and then drive 10 hours this way, and then 10 hours back and then sit around for so it's a lot of like the other week I was planning everything out, just like the miles and just the amount of travel and expenses of it all, lodging and then I the tow vehicle that it has is like an older vehicle that has like 130,000 miles on it, and we've already had to get the transmission replaced in it. So like as I'm adding up all these miles and traveling to Texas and back to New York and South Dakota, I'm like thinking about the truck. I'm like, you got your work cut out for you this year. Got to put some band-aids on it or something. But I don't know. It's just kind of yeah. I'm gonna be traveling around and from all the way from February to the end of August. I'm gonna be everywhere and anywhere, I guess.
Grinding.
Are you gonna pre-practice a lot of these places too, I'm assuming, or try to, or are you just gonna go in blind every time and be like, I got 2.5 days, we're gonna figure something out and go?
No, I was looking at the schedule. There is like some. I'm gonna try to pre-practice for the 2 in Florida and then Chickamauga as well. Um, maybe Pickwick or something, but it's just kind of hard to like like I can't just drive all the way to Texas for like a week or something and pre-practice and drive. It's just kind of pinching and pulling a lot. Um, so I'm gonna at least try to pre-practice for a couple and just understand what I'm in for. But that's also gonna be a big learning curve is that short amount of practice time because in the opens you could practice for a month before the tournament if you some people do that. You can practice as long as you want. So that's going to be a huge curveball and just trying to understand how to use my time wisely and also cover water and not cover too much water within those 2.5 days of practice or whatever on places that I've never some of them places I'm gonna never that'll be my first time looking at that body of water is for 2.5 days and then I'll have to fish some event full of a bunch of hammers.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is kind of an interesting situation, right? Like you come from the opens of having unlimited practice, and some guys take advantage of that, and then you're really cutting into a window. It's interesting to me. It's crazy to me, and it also just blows my mind how guys can break stuff down that fast on some of these places. And it's just like, you got the mindset of like, do you choose an area where you are like, all right, this is where I'm going to live or die, and I'm going to break down this area in 2.5 days, or is it okay? I don't want to spread myself too thin, but maybe I want to check out this and check out this, check in that.
Yeah, and that's where advantages of some of those like seasoned veterans, some of those guys that have been on the elites or those top level tournaments for a while. It's like they've been coming to these places for the last 15. Like they've had numerous events on this lake, so they have an idea of like what they need to focus on. And like I haven't been to a lot of these places, so like these guys. That and the other thing is I think I forget when it got enforced, like the last year or two, but with Bass, there's like a no. As soon as the schedule comes out, you can't get any sort of information whatsoever. And so that it's kind of nice because I feel like no one has an advantage at that point. The only advantage is history, but at the same time, sometimes history can hurt you a little bit. But I don't know.
Dude, I mean, look at all those guys you fished against in the Northern Opens this year. There's a lot of guys there that have fished those places a lot too.
Yeah, yeah. Well, there's so many.
Remember that it can,
Yeah, there's so many of those like jackpotters in the open that like they live in that area of the wherever the body of water is, and they and they fish it, and then they take money from us. So they have success and they take money from us folks that are trying to do good, trying to make it, and whatever. Yeah, but
Like Bill
that's
Perkins at the Oneida Open.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Was he from around there?
Oh yeah, he's from
Okay.
Rochester, New York, probably like an hour away from there.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which I don't blame him. I mean, I would if he thinks that he can
Oh
win some
yeah.
money, and he obviously did. Then more power to him.
Yeah, it's just crazy. And I wonder, like, this is something I always think about. It's like, should they make the opens more of like a serious competition thing? Like, you have to sign up for all three, and otherwise you don't get in type deal. Like that, just my thought process. And it's like it's supposed to be a qualification, and then you get guys at jackpot local tournaments, and they could throw like the standings for a loop and disqualify you. Like I feel like
Yeah.
that should be something that they should bring back, like a weekend series like they used to do. So it's like stepping stones on your way. And now
Yeah.
it's just ABAs and it's completely separate organization.
Mhm.
Yeah. It is a tricky tricky thing to figure out, but
The
then it's like
gauntlet.
why call them opens then? It's like
Right.
it's
True.
just such a
Fair point
weird
too.
it's just a weird thing. I don't know. Whatever happens in the fishing industry, there's always going to be people that aren't satisfied or aren't happy with something.
No
But
doubt, dude.
It is what it is. You got to roll with
yeah,
the punches and
yeah,
keep your head down, fish for yourself rather than worrying about all the outside factors that are going on.
hmm
Because really, it's just you against the fish, nobody else until you weigh them in. So,
yeah. They're
Mhm.
not going to catch themselves. I think Dustin Connell always says that
yeah,
they ain't going to catch themselves.
it's true.
That's very good.
Otherwise, it'd be I don't know what you would call that. Like it'd be like Asian carp as you run down the Illinois River. They would just jump in the boat, right? Like
Yeah, yeah,
that's not what we're after.
yeah. Right.
Yeah. Dude,
So
one other question I've got for you going into this next season. I mean, some of these guys too, thankfully, the Northern Opens finished up earlier than recently just on Grand. The Centrals and these guys that like just got in, and know that they're in the Elite Series now. Have you done anything to prepare sponsorship wise, financially, everything coming up with your upcoming expenses into 2022?
So yeah, that's been a tricky thing for me. Like my whole life, like I've known how to fish. Like I know how to catch a fish, but I've never experienced the business side and the marketing side of the industry. It's
Hmm.
just something that I just haven't learned. I haven't been able to. But right now, like no, it's not it's not as easy as you would think it would be. You would think like, oh, you make the elites, all these people are going to be giving you money, handing you money. No, that is maybe other people are, not me. But it's not as easy as it appears to be, and like that's like as of right now, I'm in the works. Like don't get me wrong. Like I'm trying my hardest to somehow like get support, get help to fish next year.
Sure.
But yeah, it's not an easy task at all. And so far, I don't know if there's any big companies watching. I'm a free agent if anybody wants to know.
I
That's
like
right, guys.
No,
Alex Redwine. Pick them up. Let's go.
but so that's something that I'm gonna have to learn. I'm gonna have to. Um, I feel like at this level, there's just the fishing side of it. Like people that fish the elites and fish higher tours, they're fishermen, but they're also a business person. Like they're also a personal marketer. They're also like you have to know that side of the industry just as well as you know how to actually fish. Otherwise, you're gonna run out of money or like you're gonna fail, kind of thing.
yeah.
Like you have to be invested in it.
Dude, like,
But
I don't
either
know.
way, oh sorry,
Go
or
ahead.
either way, like I don't know. I'm still working on it, the whole money thing. But either way, like I'm gonna
Where's
set
it
up a
going?
lemonade. I'm gonna sell lemonade at a lemonade stand to pay for
Heck
these.
yeah.
Like I'm gonna at least try somehow. So, but right
Red
now,
wine lemonade, 50
yeah,
cents a cup.
Red
right,
wine and lemonade,
yeah.
$500 per cup.
But right now, I detail cars at a car dealership, and I work 55 plus hours a week, just trying to save every penny I can between now and when I have to go in Florida, just because
Heck yeah.
I don't know if next like nothing's guaranteed next year. There's no guarantee that I'm gonna get a bunch of tournament winnings, so it's like I have to have as much money as I can saved up just for because I don't know
Survive.
nothing's guaranteed.
Yeah.
Yeah, dude. I think you're dead on. I mean, I think Davey Height said this one time, and I was just like, that is the best line I've heard in like tournament bass fishing and trying to make money as a tournament angler. He said something like, you can make a good living being a great fisherman in this sport, and you can make a good living being a great marketer, and you can make a great living doing both. Like the guys that do both are the ones that as far as income wise, they're the guys who are making great living in the sport.
And like you look at guys where this isn't like a bash on anybody, but you look at people that their tournament results are not the
Don't
best,
show. Oh
but
yeah, dude,
their
you're dead on.
their marketing and social media appearances, like they make it through that. Like and there's people that like not don't have the best results, they don't have the most success in tournaments, but like they're making it
They're
without
moving the
good.
needle.
Yeah. And then there's also guys that don't do anything on marketing and sponsorship side of things, but their tournament results are through the roof, and that's how they
Steve Kennedy.
survive. Yeah, right.
Like,
Right.
right.
People like that.
I get
Yeah,
it.
So
exactly. There's
it's
no
something
right or
that
wrong way. It's figuring out for you.
it's something that I'm gonna have to learn, and I don't know. Only 22, so I'm gonna
You have
have
a
to figure.
lot of time to learn.
Right, I'm gonna have to figure it out somehow.
Just slap a W on the St. John's, and then you're like, all right, there goes my elite season paid for. I'm good to
Right.
go here.
And then the sponsors will start calling. Now, do you have like a YouTube channel or anything that people can follow? I'm not sure if Bailey put it in the link here or not. So
No, I don't have a YouTube channel. Like I'm mostly like known, or most of my activity goes on Instagram and Facebook. But I am gonna this upcoming year. I am gonna start get. Obviously, YouTube is such a big tool in the industry where I am gonna try to commit to like having some sort of like production of just like kind of like raw tournament content. I think I do have a YouTube channel. There's not much on it. I think there's one video of me fishing on the Ohio River and catching some white bass. But
nice.
I think it's like Alex R fishing. But it's something that I'm gonna have to kind of stay on top of, and that's also a lot of work. Like there's fishing, there's business side, there's running social media, like doing YouTube stuff, and there's just a lot of components that go into this whole professional fishing thing.
No doubt, dude. The good news is you're young and you got a lot of time to learn. And
Yeah,
I'm so pumped to watch you
yeah,
next year.
We can't wait.
yeah. It's kind of nice being this young because it's like I I like don't have a lot to, I guess, lose. Like I don't have like a family or kids, or I don't like own a house or anything. So it's kind of nice to be able to have that. Like for the most, or like I right now I live in a house with four other guys, kind of like a bachelor pad. But like I'm like 20 minutes away from my parents' house, and I spend a lot of time there. Where it's not like I don't have like a significant other kids. Where it's like if I go broke or lose everything, it's like when I start out at square one again. Hey, mom and dad, you know what I mean?
I'm coming home.
Yeah, right.
You're dead on, dude. And I think that's such an advantage that is overlooked, right? Like a lot of guys are like, oh well, I'm not like financially established and I can't like justify going and pre-practice in these lakes and whatever, like the opposite route you see guys make it in their like 30s or 40s or whatever. And not even fishing related, like guys who like start big businesses, like a lot of times it's almost like once you get into the like kind of a regular job situation and you're like you start to get paid and like you start tacking on responsibilities, your odds of going to chase something like the Elite Series, like I feel like go down. Like just everything's working against you because you're getting more and more comfortable by not doing that. So like I don't know. I think you're in a great spot to go for it. And like you said, dude, if you fall on your face, you fall on your face. Like
Yeah,
and you try again if that's what you want to do. Or I mean it's you're in a good time to be chasing.
yeah, for sure.
It's awesome. So we have just one last question here from our viewers. What is your favorite boat snack? And he also wants to know what Deacon and my boat snack is, but we'll let
Go
you
for it.
take the front here, Alex. So go right ahead.
So that name that pops across there, Jeremy Reese. My story earlier about the Detroit River. That's my tournament partner that caught that 7 pounder,
Oh,
seven or
nice.
just under 7 pound smallmouth. But so like me and him joke around because we just have inside jokes through the roof about I just love eating snacks on the boat, like when the fish aren't biting, especially in Ohio, which happens a lot. Which it doesn't it happens a lot that you don't catch a lot of fish. So I got there's been tournaments where him and I have fished where we've been sucking, and I'll be like, dude, like, can I just eat some of your snacks in the boat? Like, I'm bored. But my
Sound
favorite
like
snack,
my tournament partner.
which he is a very good tournament partner because a lot of times we fish off of his boat, and he knows to have that snack box like full. um, but I eat a lot of
Love it.
I eat a lot of ding dongs on the boat. I eat a lot of them
Jeez.
things.
Ding dong,
So
baby.
I'd say that's my favorite boat snack.
Where's the ding dong wrap when we need it? Let's
Right,
go.
right. Sponsor plug,
Oh,
sponsor
man.
plug.
That's amazing. Like I've never thought about having ding dongs while on the boat. Like just
Yeah.
feel like that's just a lot of sugar high you're gonna get from those things. So
Yeah, sugar crash too. Sugar
yeah,
crash.
you start shaking a little bit, like not
Yeah.
good. So Deacon, what's your go-to for the
Dude.
boat snack here?
Oh gosh, favorite boat snack, man. Dude, I eat like a lot of bars and stuff, but as far as like if I want something that's gonna like taste good, if I want like graphing or something, like you can't beat like some Cheez-Its or something that's like, something you can like crunch on. I feel
Yeah.
like that's something I like for sure. What about you?
So I am like a tradition type guy, like superstitious, kind of with like my snacks. So in the morning, I always have Pop Tarts when I launch the boat, waiting for the tournament to start. There's always a bag of beef jerky and
Yeah,
a Lucky Charms cereal bar. Like those are the
Okay.
three things I always have in the boat
Every
for the
time.
tournament. Just about this year though, I couldn't find any Lucky Charms bars. This is the first year I didn't have them, so I swapped it out for a Cliff peanut butter bars. But those work pretty well. But usually it's Lucky Charms.
Yeah. Also, nothing tastes better than one of those Uncrustables, the little like peanut butter jelly
Oh yeah,
sandwiches. Like
those are
you,
legit.
yeah,
Like
you
give
could
me
get
8 of them.
yeah. You could give me
Yeah.
you could give me leftovers from a week ago, and if it's like the middle of if I'm on the water, anything's gonna taste good.
Exactly.
Fair
Are you
point.
guys superstitious with bananas on boats or not?
We're not, dude. The times that I fished with my dad, like my dad, like I didn't before I even knew that bananas were like a superstitious. He'd just be eating bananas on the boat, and like then
Yeah.
I heard that it was like a superstitious, and I'd be like, why are you eating bananas on the boat? And he was like, they taste good or something. I don't know. It just didn't like it. Not, but no super. I do have like superstitions that are I don't know, like kind of weird or random or whatever. If I'm being honest, like I'll be vulnerable here. Like I have like 2 or 3 pairs of underwear that like I only wear on tournament days. If I'm being honest, like it's just I know it's weird. Like like I like there's certain socks that I like to wear on tournament. Like I know it's weird or whatever, but
No, it's
like
fine.
Dude, I love it.
it's just patterns that I've adapted throughout tournament fishing, and I just don't want to break those patterns. Now those superstitions probably won't work because like this is the first time I've ever really spoken on it. Like so now my superstition's exposed, so it probably won't work anymore. But I guess I got
it
time
just
to buy
doubles down.
time to buy new underwear, I guess.
It's really funny that you say those things. Like, I guess we'll all be a little vulnerable here. I wore, I think, every time I fun fished and fished a tournament for like the first 2 months or like guide trips, I wore the same shirt, hat, and pants every time because I'm like, if I'm wearing this, we're gonna crack them. And then as soon as I stop cracking them, I change it up and then I'll carry that on for like the next month and a half, and I'll just keep wearing the same thing over and over again. So every picture looks like I fished the same day because it's the same outfit every time.
Right.
Man, I think you guys are whack. I don't have any of that stuff at all. But that's probably why I suck at fishing. I need to maybe pay more attention to my superstitions.
So Rich says, "What are you gonna do when those underwear wear out?" And Joe LaBarbera says, "Time to buy new undies, bud."
So I got vulnerable for 1 second. Now people are coming at me about this.
It's gonna be a G-string is what it's gonna have.
We could take it even further. Chris Howell asked, "What is the game plan if you have to poo really bad? I'm talking chill bumps, and you're on them, and you have a cameraman on live. We could go really far here. Like, what are you doing with that lucky pair of underwear in that situation?"
I mean, I always I have toilet paper in the boat, but yeah, I don't know. I'll figure it out when I get there, I guess. I mean, if I have a cameraman in the boat, it means I'm doing something right, so I'll figure it out then, I guess.
This is perfect.
I wasn't
dude.
sure if I
love
could
it.
like plug that anywhere, but I was like, oh man, I have to go back and plug this because we're on the Undie Talk, and that'd be hilarious.
Oh, dude,
Yeah,
I was
so
thinking that too. The first thing I thought of was like, how great would this look on Instagram in a 1-minute clip?
Yeah.
Superstitions for 2022 Elite season, Alex
so,
Redwine.
so like if like Haynes or like whatever it is, Fruit by the if like some like company like is hearing this and like wants to provide me with like tournament edition underwear, like I'll take it.
That's right. And on those hot days, man, you got to be repping just the undies.
Well, I mean, Joe LaBarbera says
Oh.
he goes, banana hammock, new trend started. Like, but Rich goes, I'm clipping this video and sending it to Ronnie so he can bring it up your
Geez.
first day on Bass Live. Trendsetters.
Dave Mercer's gonna make some like nickname for me, and he's gonna put like underwear
dude,
in
get
there
ready.
or something.
Oh gosh, it's too funny. So one last question here before we hit you with our last question, so we can let you get some sleep before your 55-hour-a-week detailing cars. Ryan Dahl wants to know, what do you do for the winter off season? Do you do any fishing, like winter fishing in Ohio, saugeye or ice, or you just go down to Florida too? Like, what do you do?
So I pretty much fish until like in the fall and early winter until like the weather kind of shuts you out. Believe it or not, like the Ohio River kind of gets. I don't know if I should be saying this. I'm kind of exposing the Ohio River, but it kind of gets like pretty good in like the fall and early winter, and good as in like I can go and catch like 12, maybe 13 pounds. Like that's like phenomenal. With like the fishing actually kind of like picks up a little bit around where I'm at in the fall and early winter, but besides that, like once around the holidays come, like I'm going to Florida, and that's where I'll be this year. Like this is probably my 8th or 9th year that I go to Florida. My dad also spends the winter in Florida. He's like a snowbird. He lives up here and then he goes down there in the winter. But like that's my plan for like once someone says Lulu for sponsorship.
Oh gosh, Rich, you should get some Lulu undies for sponsors. Like that's just funny.
Jeez.
Yeah, too bad for being vulnerable for 30 seconds.
Oh,
right.
Right.
I
You
apologize.
even said it too. You're like, oh, I'll be vulnerable here, and then let it out.
I
Boom,
figured
the whole world.
Yeah, I figured like people instead of like I know they're not bashing it, they're just getting a hard time. Like I figured like maybe someone in the comments would like come out and say like maybe they have a superstition that's like that. Maybe that they weren't sure. I don't know. I guess it's just me.
Same red boxers every derby. We're in.
Right.
7 years
Washing
running.
the
Let's
lake
go.
the night before, making sure that it has
Yeah.
the lake water.
They'll come up
fresh
part of the
leeches.
system.
They'll come up to me before blast off. Like, so Alex, like how are you feeling about today? By the way, like what underwear are you wearing today?
Which one of the 3 pairs?
Yeah. What happens if I make this day 4? I guess I'll have to. So I don't know what I'll do with it.
Oh
Oh boy, yeah, that's a good point.
Flip them inside out, I guess.
Jeez.
So,
So I know you said when we were talking offline that you have listened to the show in the past. So I'm assuming you know the last question we're going to ask you here before we get off.
You'll have to tell me. I'll be honest, I don't remember.
All right, Deacon, do you want to ask it or do you want me to?
Go for it, man. You got to
All
nail
right.
it down.
So if you can sit down with any 3 people from now to like BC time era and have a steak and a beer, it can be fishing industry, non-fishing industry, who would it be and why?
Probably one. First person that comes to mind is Gerald Swindle. I think he'd be a cool fellow to talk to. He's just good with words. That and dang, I don't know.
This is the best. I love how like people get stumped if they don't know what's coming. It's always like,
I really don't know.
Oh shoot! You can't say that. That's not an answer. You got 2 more to go, bud.
I don't know. Probably Swindle. I feel like I've looked up to him a lot. Probably my good friend Jesus Christ. I feel like I'd have a lot of. It'd be fun talking to him, obviously.
Yeah.
And I don't know. What's one of your guys's?
Well, we've
No,
answered this
no.
before, so this is
No,
all
no,
you,
this
man.
is
I don't know.
yeah, you got it could be a sports character, like it could
Yeah.
be another fisherman, or like dude, anyone that you're like, man, it'd be sweet to sit
Mythical
down.
beast, like whatever.
It could be like Katy Perry. I mean, I don't
Oh.
know, some other like maybe someone who made Hanes, like the underwear brand. I don't know.
The Fruit of the Loom guy.
Yeah. I don't
Yeah,
know.
there you go. The grape from the Fruit of the Loom.
I don't know. I can't think. I'll say Johnny Cash.
There you go. I like it.
Yeah. And why? Why Johnny Cash?
I feel like I bet he's probably a good storyteller. I don't know. He's done some crazy things in his life. I feel like it'd be
No
funny to
joke.
hear. Be funny to hear a story about him.
Yeah, I think that's a first. Johnny Cash is
I think
definitely
that's a
first.
new one, dude.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Heck
So,
yeah.
anything else you want everybody to know about, everyone who tuned in to know about you here, Alex, before we sign off?
No, I don't know. I'm just an average guy from Ohio that likes to fish, and I don't know. Like I feel like I'm no different than anybody else. I don't know. I'm just a young kid ready to explore this whole professional bass fishing thing. And like I said, I don't know what I'm in for, but I'm in for something. It's gonna be a huge learning curve, and I'm freaking pumped. Like
Yeah.
it seems so far away. Like oh, February's so far away, but it's gonna be here. Next thing you know, and I'm either gonna be ready or I'm not gonna be ready. But I'm just super thankful for like all the people that have kind of stuck out for me and people that have brought me along on tucked me under their wing when I was younger, and I owe a lot of I owe it to a lot of those people, and I just thank everybody for kind of sticking out for me and showing me love. And my
Awesome.
parents too. My parents have been a huge backbone in what I do, and yeah, they keep me going.
Like it, man.
Me too.
How can folks follow along with you and everything on your social media channels?
Yeah. I'm on Instagram, Alex Redwine Fishing. I'm on Facebook, Alex Redwine Fishing. I'm starting to pedaddle a little bit in the whole like TikTok thing. I know that's kind of a big
Good
deal
deal.
or whatever, but and then next year I'm gonna try to get a YouTube thing kind of going. But yeah, hopefully you'll see me on Bassmaster Live or something or at Fox Sports One.
Crushing
Yeah,
the elites, man.
yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Go get it done.
yeah. Thank you, and I appreciate you guys taking the time to have me on the show, and hopefully I'm on it again sometime.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll get you back on, Alex, and best of luck in 2022.
Yeah,
Heck
thank
yeah,
you.
dude.
So, well, for everybody tuning in, I hope everyone has a great night. And as always, feel free to subscribe, like, and comment on this in the future. And I hope everybody has a good rest of the week. Thank you again, Alex.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you guys.
Thanks
It's
for
been
coming
fun.
on, dude.